December 1945. Bad Nauheim, Germany. General George S. Patton, commander of the U.S. 15th Army, dies as a result of a car accident. In America, newspapers praise a hero. Soldiers remember his speeches. The public remembers the warrior in the helmet with stars. But behind the scenes of Allied triumph, something else is happening. In prisoner of war camps and during interrogations, the former elite of the Wehrmacht, men who held all of Europe in fear for 4 years, begin giving their assessments. Not all speak openly. Not all speak immediately. But one man's opinion carries more weight than the rest. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, the architect of Case Yellow, the conqueror of Crimea, and a master of maneuver warfare. A man known for his cold analysis and contempt for incompetence. He had no reason to flatter an enemy who destroyed his country. That is exactly why his verdict matters. Because when Manstein analyzed Patton, he did not see just a general. He saw a reflection of his own philosophy of war. We considered Patton the most dangerous Allied commander. His style of advance was closer to our understanding of blitzkrieg than anyone else in the Anglo-American command. If you are interested in real military history, not just victories, but how great commanders actually thought, consider subscribing. Today, we will break down why a German master of strategy acknowledged Patton's superiority, and which decisions by George Blood and Guts forced the Wehrmacht to retreat faster than it had planned. By the summer of 1944, Patton had already become a black mark for the Germans. After Operation Husky in Sicily, German intelligence recorded a clear pattern. Wherever Patton appeared, the tempo of the operation nearly doubled. But the real test came in France. On August 1, 1944, Patton's Third Army was officially activated. What followed entered military history as the breakout at Avranches. Patton did not merely break the front line. He threw his tanks, above all the 4th and 7th Armored Divisions, into open space, effectively ignoring his flanks. And this is where the most important part begins. By every military standard of the time, long armored columns without reliable infantry protection were close to suicide. One successful counterattack could have cut them in half. But Patton saw what Eisenhower's headquarters did not. German logistics were already falling apart. Their communications were overloaded. Fuel, reserves, and orders were arriving too late. Patton understood that in this situation, speed itself was the best protection. The headquarters of Army Group B tried to organize counterattacks, but by the time an order reached a division, Patton was already dozens of kilometers beyond their calculations. That was the real operational shock. Not just a breakthrough, not just pressure, but war fought at a pace the Germans could no longer adapt to. So here is the question. Was Patton's aggression a work of genius, or did he simply have such overwhelming resources that he could afford to take risks? The strongest recognition from Manstein was connected to the events of December 1944, the Ardennes offensive. Hitler's last major attempt to turn the war in the West. When the U.S. 101st Airborne Division became surrounded in Bastogne, the situation looked critical. On December 20th, during a meeting in Verdun, Patton made a statement that shocked everyone in the room. He said he could turn his entire army 90 degrees and attack the Germans within 3 days. To many, it sounded like fantasy. General Omar Bradley considered such a maneuver nearly impossible. To redeploy over 250,000 men, thousands of vehicles, tanks, artillery, and supplies, in winter conditions, on icy roads, through massive traffic, would normally take weeks. Patton did it in 48 to 72 hours. And that is the key. The Third Army moved more than 150 kilometers across frozen roads and entered combat immediately, straight from the march. This was not just fast movement. It was a logistical and command miracle. Manstein later pointed out that this maneuver effectively destroyed Germany's chances of success in the Ardennes. Because Patton did something unexpected, he beat the German army at its own strength, speed, reaction, operational flexibility. And that may have been the most painful part. For decades, the German army had built its identity on tempo, maneuver, and initiative. And now, an American general used the same principles against them, but faster. So here is the real question. At that moment, was Patton reacting to the situation, or had he already seen it coming? After the war, in conversations with historians, including Basil Liddell-Hart, Manstein and other German commanders, such as Gerd von Rundstedt, pointed out several things that made Patton different. First, his acceptance of chaos. Patton did not wait for perfect information. He did not demand ideal conditions. He attacked in order to force the enemy to reveal himself. Second, his use of armored forces. Patton understood something many Allied commanders did not. A tank is not just support for infantry. It is a tool for deep breakthrough. It is meant to break space, not just hold the front. Third, his lack of fear for his flanks. Patton knew that if he moved faster than the enemy could think, even exposed flanks would remain safe, at least for a time. And this is exactly what the Germans recognized. Not that Patton was perfect, not that he was always right, but that he understood the true nerve of modern war: time. Patton was the only Allied general who operated according to the principles of armored warfare that we ourselves developed in the 1930s. He was our most capable student. That quote says almost everything. For the German High Command, Patton was dangerous not because he was an American with a large army, but because he spoke their language, the language of speed, aggression, and deep offensive maneuver. So why did Manstein, a man known for rarely giving praise, single out Patton and not someone like Montgomery? The answer lies in psychology and in military culture. Manstein despised excessive caution. For him, war was not accounting. It was the art of maneuver. Montgomery fought methodically. He built strength slowly. He minimized risk. Patton fought differently. He was like a poker player, who not only goes all in, but knows the exact moment when his opponent cannot respond. That is why German generals respected him. Not for his speeches, not for his public image, and not even for his victories alone. They respected how he thought, in terms they understood: tempo, pressure, paralysis of enemy command, the gap between decision and reaction. So here is the question. If Patton had been given full command of all Allied forces in 1944, could the war in the West have ended before Christmas, as he himself once believed? Patton's story did not end on the battlefield. It ended in a hospital bed. But his legacy did not remain only in American archives, not only in soldiers' memories, and not only in newspaper headlines. It remained in the words of his enemies. Manstein's recognition is not just a compliment. It is evidence that on the vast map of World War II, there was at least one Allied general whose name caused not irritation, but professional fear inside the German High Command. Patton proved one thing. Sometimes, one personality can change the tempo of an entire war. So now the final question is yours. Was Patton truly one of the greatest strategists of World War II? Or was his success simply the result of overwhelming American resources? Write your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy stories where real decisions, personalities, and truths reveal the real face of war, consider subscribing.
Thank you for watching. This was Mike. And this was War from Mike's Perspective. See you in the next video.